Hello viewers, tonight I'm going to read Chapter 14 of Claymore. So we will begin with Teresa walking through the forest, and it seems that the young girl is still following her. Alright, she falls. It looks like she has stepped on some loose rock. Huff, huff, huff. I should not have done that. Breathing sounds, basically. That is what I should say when I see, the huffing sounds. Because saying huff is, sounds stupid. Anyhow. Okay, let me begin. She just won't give up. No food, no water, yet she still keeps coming. And this itself is... And you can see the sort of story element of this basically being similar to Rocky and Claire. In other words, Rocky is always following Claire. The little girl is always following Teresa. We can see how they don't care about the kids, the children. They show a sort of callousness towards children, which is sort of a thing throughout this whole manga, to be entirely honest. Which, I don't know. I remember when I was reading this manga, and even when I was watching the anime, it sort of got, I sort of felt, alright, this plot point is not very, I'll put it this way, oftentimes in anime or manga, the plot points and scenarios presented to us, they're there for a reason, to express something. But I remember when I was reading this, I don't know. It did not seem very commendable, relatable, interesting. It felt like this is going to set up for something. This is the way Teresa can redeem herself for being such a sort of heartless domina, basically. And the same thing, was done with Claire. In other words, yes, we know that Claymores are pretty rough and mean. They treat the townspeople, like they're worthless, but hey, they have a nice side. I felt that this plot point, that the element of sort of the child basically following, these two Claymore characters around, I have to say, it did not really, appeal to me very much. But this is what happens when you have a character that is not necessarily an anti-hero, but to an extent, I suppose you could call Teresa or Claire an anti-hero, even though, to be entirely honest, Teresa already assumes that the organization that she works for is sending monsters to attack townspeople. And that is something we have to keep in mind too. I mean, how can you redeem a character like that who literally says it? They literally have, basically no doubt. They just say to their boss, they say, hey, we don't send the monsters out to kill the people? I thought that was the way it was. I mean, that itself. And maybe, I'm not sure if that was in the anime, but that basically reveals, much about the character of Teresa. Okay. This isn't so much endurance as the sheer willpower. Still, she must be reaching her limit. Okay. Now she is sort of jumping down this cliff, and the girl's going to have a hard time getting down there. She's looking down in terror because she knows if she goes down, she's probably going to hurt herself, but she does not care. She's just going to jump off. Now, this is what I mean when I say logic. Logic. we have to imagine a little girl who has no real sense of pain or anything. In other words, you have a little girl who's so desperate she's going to jump off a cliff just to follow you. And this is why I say there's some type of, this does not come from normal culture. And I have to say, where does it come from? I cannot say exactly, but this is not something normal little girls or normal people do. Normal people, hey, there may be an orphan or someone who's following an adult or just feels as though they're, sort of comforted by someone, but this is not something that we, the readers, can really see happening. This is why I say in a lot of manga and a lot of anime, you can tell bad writing because bad writing does not follow logical scenarios. Bad writing relies on shocking you. Basically, hey, you didn't expect that little girl would jump off of a cliff, did you? You didn't expect she would actually do that she would hurt herself to follow Teresa. This looks surprising. The problem is that, let's be honest, this is not something that, it just makes no sense. You as the reader cannot understand the sense in doing this. She's like, what? And the little girl, she's saying nothing, she's just crazy, she's just gonna jump off. She catches a branch. The little girl catches a branch. Okay? She's like, oh, I'm so surprised. And she literally falls there on the ground. And let me just say this, throughout her whole role in the story, the little girl is treated like a rag doll. And I hate to say it once again, people who have been watching this series know that I talk about sexual fetishes. And you would say, hey, how could that be a sexual fetish? Well, I try to think about all of the logical reasons for why you would have a character act completely insensible without any self-awareness. Because, you see, if you create a character, if you create a sort of character with a personality, you have to take into account how much logic, how much self-awareness does this character have. And I have to say, the way that this character, this little girl is written, and we will find out who this individual is later, but, excuse me, the way that she is written is rather bad, because the way that she is written is not realistic in any sense, because the amount of people who would behave this way is extremely minuscule. There are very few, girls, men, boys who are going to jump off a cliff, just to follow you or get kicked around and beat up like she was in the previous chapter, and not have any capability to reason. Wait, no, this woman is hurting me, or she does not care about me. You see, this is an abusive relationship. And oftentimes, Teresa and Claire are put into, but especially Teresa. Teresa, more than, I would say, any other character in this manga, is sort of placed in the role of abuse, more so than any other character, sort of Claymore, in this manga. And I mean that. And in that sense, the characters are not, she as a character is not, we as the reader, we are trying to relate to the character, understand their reasoning. The problem is, with the little girl, we cannot even really understand her reasoning, and you can make a character that is basically insensible, sort of dumb, but for us, it's, for myself, I have to say, why were the kids abused so much in this particular manga? And personally, based on what I know, there are people who have fetishes involving little kids being hurt or abused. And so, based on the very fetishistic nature of this whole manga, I would have to say that this is yet another addition to the sort of repertoire of of what I consider to be the sort of appeal of this manga. This is a type of child enthusiasm, so to speak, in my opinion. And I see a lot of that in many different manga. Sometimes, and of course we're going to see children in some very interesting positions here, as I often do in Japanese manga. Truth be told, which, is disturbing, but, when I think about why are the kids the kids act so stupid. They're just going, it's just like how they make the townspeople act so stupid. It is almost as though the Claymores are the only people with brains who can think and can reason. Everyone else just acts as though they are completely incompetent, which, is frustrating for a reader such as myself, who is trying to understand the reasons and the reasoning and motivations and character personalities of every single sort of figure that is presented in the story. So no, I really think that this element of her sort of being a walking ragdoll was terrible. Okay. What is going on? Why would she be doing all of this to follow me? Oh well, she can't follow me if she's unconscious. This is the end of the line, no matter what. Okay. And I think, for shock value, this presented in anime is more effective. When I am reading this as a mature individual, this is not something that shocks me. This just makes me think, wow. Really? This is terrible writing. This is terrible writing. It is almost as though, okay, I will shock you, the reader. This is going to make you feel a type of way. I want you to feel angry at our domina, Teresa. But for me, it's just, I'm just trying to understand, wait, why would you write such badly, these are such badly written characters. And let me just say it honestly. Manga, regardless of what people say, regardless of how mature it is, it appeals to a childlike mind that is sort of surprised and sort of, jolted by things like this. Okay, a little girl falls down. That surprises you. When you get to be about, 20 or 30, it depends on your maturity level. Stuff like that, you just wonder, okay, what was the purpose of writing and portraying this? You start to ask questions like that. And that is sort of, where I would like to take my commentaries, and that's where they go. They go in the more mature direction. Excuse me, people, I have to clear my throat for a few moments. Okay, I am back. So, the little girl, she's lying face down on the ground. Teresa's just looking at her. She says, damn you. Will it be my fault if I leave you here to die? Those bandits back there saw you with me. You're really becoming a pain. Okay. And I guess, does she kick her, into the pond, I guess? I guess so. You awake now, kid? I don't know. None of it's logical, because if you were so concerned that if you killed someone, you would be held responsible for it, obviously you would treat them better. I mean, that's logic. That's logic. There is such an absence of logic, during these interactions. It makes you think, wait, okay, the child is not logical, nor is she, for whatever reason. Okay, the water's drinkable. You didn't pass out just from the fall. You're dehydrated. Okay, just drinking water. And you stink too. Didn't anyone in town help you clean up? You reek of Yoma blood. Better wash yourself and your clothes thoroughly. So once again, we have nudity. Well, not necessarily nudity, but it's just that we have to see the little girl. That is, oh wow. And this is, oh wow. Okay, she does take her shirt off. This is a little girl, everyone. Child enthusiasm in manga from Japanese writers. Oh my goodness. This is and regardless of artistic direction, it should make people ask the question, all right, why? Did you have to show a little naked little girl, half naked little girl? Did you have to do it? Did the artists have to do it? Of course they have to. For those people who say that, hey, manga, it's not a sexual thing, it's artistic, there are reasons why you put certain things in your art. There are reasons why we see the little girl half naked. Oh my goodness, that's so much skin show from a little girl. And you would think would the artist sort of think, wait, that's a little girl, I shouldn't show her naked body because, I want to not have, child enthusiasm. I don't want to appeal to the child enthusiasts who sexually are attracted to minors, that word that starts with a P. Wow. This is why, people like myself, I read manga, I watch anime. But the discussions about the child enthusiasm in manga and anime are not often had. But I just have to, hey, it is what it is. We all see it. We all know why he has decided to show us this in this particular manga. Oh my goodness. To me, wow. Okay, I have to continue. Of course, the villagers were probably too afraid to clean her up because of the Yoma, and those bruises must have scared them even more. Okay, I have to clear my throat again. It's just that time of year. Okay, but that's just Japanese culture. You see so much of that. But I do think that we, whether you're Japanese or you're Western, people, I think, should stop being afraid to talk about this stuff. And we should highlight it. This is a little girl's naked body. Without any doubt. Okay, we can all see it. And we all know who that attracts. We all know who that appeals to. We all know what type of fantasy that is. Okay. So I didn't read that too well. So basically the villagers are too afraid to clean her up. She has a bunch of bruises and stuff on her. They're not, she looks kind of like, she smells like Yoma blood, so I guess the villagers are staying away from her. You better eat something, too. Your stomach must be empty. Okay, so with some type of meat or whatever. And just like Rocky, where Rocky gets the lizard or whatever and he's just eating it really fast. They have the girl eating it really fast. Wait, she doesn't even have her shirt on, does she? She doesn't. Wow. They went with a topless little girl and they kept her topless even in this scene. She's still topless. This little girl is not even 18. This little girl is... this is why... people usually think there's a fine line between manga, like most manga and hentai. But this is basically... and sure, there's not much definition there in the chest area, but there's still enough for us to get the idea. Because when you're a little girl, oftentimes you're not very well developed in the chest. But she's basically half naked. The only thing that's covering her up is her underwear. Is her, her undergarments. But basically her chest is topless. This is basically a nearly naked little girl. So the artist who wrote this was, as far as I know, someone in his 40s. Okay, at the time. This man was over 40. And he wrote this. He drew this or whatever. But yeah, they have the whole cute little thing. She's eating the meat real fast, the food real fast, just like Rocky was. Okay, they make the little kid act like a pet, act like a dog, and this whole thing about, hey, she's really abusive. Here's some food, little doggy, eat it up. They treat the little kids, they treat Rocky and they treat this girl, like an animal. It's like she called her a pet and she's acting like a pet. And all of this whole scenario is extremely sexual. Okay? You have a topless young girl. All of this is basically just complete fetish bait, complete child enthusiasts. The child enthusiasts really love this stuff. And, I knew what I was getting into when I read this the first time. I knew what I was getting into when I watched the anime. But now I finally get to give my commentary on it. And, if you have different opinions, please state them in the comment section. Okay. It's like having a new pet. She's still eating it up. It's like, what is it? Oh, she's trying to share the food with her again, just like Rocky did. It's just, they do this a lot. You see the same scenario done. Like, you see Rocky does the same thing. You see the Claymores all do the same thing. Hey, I came for the money, pay the man in black. Rocky eats the food fast. The little girl eats the food fast. They do this whole sort of mirroring thing where it's like, hey, this will remind you of an earlier scene in the manga. They do that whole thing of, hey, do you remember when this character did this the exact same way that this particular character is doing to reference what that other character did? They do this a lot in Claymore, and I think they do it so much that it loses any sort of thematic appeal, and the girl is still topless, obviously. The girl is still topless, obviously. She's still topless. And there were people... There were people who were trying to say, well, the girls and the Claymores, they're not shapely, they're not curvaceous, they're not buxom, they don't have big tits and a big ass, and so therefore it is not sexual. There have been people who've made that argument to me, and I have to disagree with all of that. I really do. It does not matter how big, the breasts are. It does not matter how big the posterior is. If the girl is nude, if the girl's walking around without a shirt on or nothing to cover up her chest, hey, that is pretty sexual. And if the girl is not even 18 yet, if the girl's a minor, hey, we do not have to be geniuses to know what this is. I mean, we cannot deny it. We cannot pretend that that's anything less than child enthusiasm. Child enthusiasm of a horrible, horrible type. Okay, once again I have to clear my throat. So sorry. Okay. Alright. For those of you who are not familiar, I do not edit these videos, and so if I have to do something, there's always pauses in them. Unfortunately. Yeah, I'm gonna drink some water. Alright. Don't worry about me. I'm fine. It's for you. Go on and eat. Because obviously the Claymores don't eat much, but you see, I mean, these same conversations are repeated. Once with Rocky, now with her. And they repeat conversations in Claymore, and it's almost as though the repetitiveness of this particular manga, there's just too much of it in it. Now, a little bit of repetitiveness I can understand. Too much, however, is pretty terrible. Okay. So the little girl says nothing. So, this is really? Do you think I'm just being nice? Okay. The little girl's happy because she gets to eat all of it. Maybe a bit better than the pet. Okay. So, I mean, look at this scene, though. And you have to think about the logic of it. You have this very dominant woman who kills Yoma with a smile, who is, very assertive when she's dealing with other people. She has a little girl who is a pet. And the little girl is topless. The little girl is basically nude at this point. The little girl has nothing on her body except some underwear. And this is I do not care what some of you will say, this is a very sexual scene. This is a very sexual scene that gives you all types of thoughts. If you have not realized, that little girl's not wearing anything on her chest. Those little tiny mosquito bite looking nipples are there for all to see. Now, sure, they're covered here, but we saw them once. Okay, I did not, I had to read this over again. This is the second time I am reading this over. Because I'd read this manga the first time. But you can clearly see that there are some little dots that sort of represent her nipples. And so, I would just say, this artist really did do it. This woman is calling this little girl a pet. This little half-naked girl a pet. I'm not joking. She's more than half naked at this point, because basically the only thing we are not seeing is her genitalia. But basically what we are seeing is pretty, those Japanese manga artists, they basically have, no real rules or limits. And I remember there were teenagers who used to read this manga. There were, manga, regardless of if it is written for adults. Teenagers and children will always read it and watch anime. And so they will see a lot of the sexual stuff in it. But what is more very horrifying is the sort of acceptance of this sexuality being extended towards a minor girl who is she's not even 18 yet. Okay, this is a child. To say, hey, I have a little girl as my pet is already terrible enough. To have a little girl and saying, yeah, she's my pet. and she's basically naked. Yeah, I don't care what narrative context there is. Yeah, that is obviously extremely perverted, by most civilized standards, because, we can use the word that starts with a P, but, I use the term, the sort of phrase, that's child enthusiasm. So, very interesting. Very interesting. And you're going to see a lot more of it as we read this manga, or if you read it. I do not know how much they put in the anime, but it definitely is in the manga. You will find plenty of child enthusiasm. Yes, you will. You'll find all types of justifications for it, too. I mean, it's quite something. Okay. So she says, for now, get some sleep. You probably haven't slept much lately. Don't worry, I won't run you off while you're sleeping. Alright. Sun's out. She's just standing there. Finally, she has some clothes on. So, the very fact that they kept this girl topless for as long as she was. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, she's topless for that scene. They could have had her put clothes. Yeah, she was topless for those scenes. Here she has clothes. I do not. Okay, I guess that was her dress that she was wearing in the first place. Okay. Interesting. I brought you some breakfast. Still hungry? You humans are a pain. You have to eat twice, even 3 times a day. Okay, if you do not know, Claymores do not have to eat. Very much. Okay, the little girl is hugging her, and this is something that she does not like. Hey, what is it? Because she has a bunny. You fool. I told you I wouldn't run off. I don't lie, I don't have to. So believe what I tell you. Okay. And they try to do the whole maternal thing. And this is a way to redeem Teresa as a character. And you're going to see that they're going to do this with a lot of monstrous, half-monster type characters. And even characters who have more of a Yoma nature than Teresa. Alright? They're going to take these characters who have done horrible things and try to redeem them. Now, Teresa is a Claymore. This is a different situation. But there are going to be characters who are more evil, than Teresa, who, it is debatable, it is arguable if you want to consider Teresa evil, but basically, considering what Teresa said, how she admitted, hey, yeah, I know you people in the organization send monsters after people. I thought that was just the way you did it. And the organization guy is trying to say, no, we don't do that. Don't say that. Very interesting. I have to clear my throat again. So sorry, people, for all of the pauses. Oh my goodness, this reminds me of when I used to do the earlier episodes of this whole Claymore manga. And I remember how cold it was in some of, in a particular room I was doing it in. And I seem to be in that same situation now. It has been a long time since I've been doing these. It really has been. I really do want to finish them, though. Even though I have basically, 90 or basically 100 and some chapters left. Alright? But anyhow, there have never been commentary videos for Claymore quite like this. So, yeah, you can see she's smiling, she's happy to have the girl around now, and it's like, hey, look, this is the maternal affection of Teresa, and this is their little redemption. We have to redeem the sort of violent, dominant woman who kills Yoma with a smile. We have to redeem her We have to make her more good and more likable and more relatable. To me, I thought, once again, this particular aspect of the story, it seems forced to me, and a lot of things do not make any sense. Because a lot of the characters do not act sensibly. Okay? But anyhow, what am I smiling? Okay, she says, what am I smiling about? Alright. So they're walking in the forest again. The little girl, I guess she's tired. She's having heavy breathing noises. Oh, look at this. She's gonna fall again. But this time, Teresa catches her. I mean, you have to recognize how repetitive this is. Alright, she fell one time, now she's fallen again, and now, but there's a contrast. Instead of, not helping her, now Teresa is helping her. Wow. Teresa, this is just, the redemption arc is just, wow. The way, how repetitive that is. This is the same chapter. She's already fell 2 times, and, their way of emphasizing things is pretty stupid in this manga. I mean, the flow of events is just, that, I mean, did we really have to have the same thing happen again? Of basically her falling in the exact same way? It's a loose stone. Just like earlier in the manga, it's a loose stone. There's a lot of repetition in Claymore. Too much repetition in Claymore. It does not help the story. It is not very interesting. So she grabs the girl's arm, she picks her up. When she's not saying anything, she's just kind of surprised. Watch your step. The rocks are loose. Okay. So she's just looking, just surprised. Oh, she cares about me. She cares about me. I mean, if this story was written in a more natural way, maybe it would feel more, substantial and just be so much more interesting. Okay, she is sleeping. She eats her food and then sleeps like a log. No wonder. I may have slowed down for her, but she's only a child. Still, she kept up. She's strange. Why does she try so hard to follow me? Okay. Snoring noises. You must have latched on to me because you have no one else. And for me, the redemption arc, the way they redeemed Teresa, it's just too fast. You go from kicking a girl, knocking her down, not caring if she falls down from a cliff, to basically, oh, look, she's smiling. She's smiling. This is what I mean about logic. If we are thinking logically, obviously, if you were that sort of callous towards her before, this is too short a time span for that whole sort of complete change of personality. Okay, now you're smiling. Before, she was an annoying girl to you. You didn't want anything to do with her, but now it's entirely different. Even the whole sort of relationship between Claire and Rocky seemed more realistic, because what Claire was trying to do was basically try to, she left Rocky at an inn or something, and basically she was just trying to, get away from him at some point. But it's just like, the way this whole dynamic works. First, I'm beating you up. First, I don't care if you fall down and die. It doesn't matter. Now, oh, she's so cute. I'm smiling. She's so great. I'm watching her sleep. Wow. What a transition. What an unrealistic transition. I guess, people just, that's how people behave. Not to me, but okay. I guess this is the way The author really thought, this is a good way to redeem Teresa. And I, in my own view as the reader, her sort of personality, her sort of callousness and sort of evil demeanor has not been redeemed. And I mean, we're going to see this a lot. We're going to see this a lot in this manga. Alright. But if you've no one but me, then you're truly unfortunate. You picked the wrong person. At least with a regular human, you would have found a better place to sleep. In the long run, I can't do anything for you. Okay. Someone's walking, heavy breathing from this person. Hey, are you ready? Let's go. Look, it's daytime. Sun's out. Looks like she's thought of something. I still don't know your name. I can't keep calling you Hey. Calling you Hey. Oh, goodness. I mean, I wonder if that's an English translation problem. Is this a problem with translation? I mean, you would not call a person Hey. You call a person and you say, Hey, come over here. But you don't that's not a name. I think that is a translation problem, probably. I mean, even though it just does not make sense in English. Okay? Alright. Huh? It's okay, relax. You don't look like you can write. I just picked something for now. I've got one. Claire. How about Claire? And of course, this is Claire. And, for those of us who watch the anime and the manga, it did not come as a surprise, but yeah, that is the dynamic. Just like Rocky and Claire, there's Teresa and Claire sort of, follows in the footsteps of her mentor. Alright, which we will learn more about. What? That's not your real name, is it? Really? Good. It's the name of a goddess of love who was exquisitely pure. Her twin sister was Teresa. That's my name. I mean, and they had this whole twin goddess thing in Claymore. Now, the interesting thing about Claymore is that, the religions that have been presented are sort of, I still do not, know very much about them, even though I've read, the manga before. But as I read the manga, maybe I can understand more about these religions. And this whole idea about the goddess of love as being sort of the main goddess, two goddesses of love. There's a type of love that, there are a few types of love that are presented in this manga. Most of what is presented in this manga I would consider to be lust. But yeah, I guess you could call a certain, I mean, we're going to see some things that all of us are going to have to think about in terms of that choice, okay? The two main goddesses of God are goddesses of love. And, I myself, as I am reading this again, I'm going to ask myself, how much does this manga have to do with love? And if it has to do with love, what type of love? Alright? Is it child enthusiastic love? Sort of the P word, or, I'm not going to say that particular word that usually gets channels flagged, but when I say child enthusiasm, some of you know what I'm talking about. We are going to see more as we read this manga. We're going to see, that there's going to be a lot of love for particular types of fetishes and particular, narrative elements that are somewhat disturbing. We're going to see that. Maybe my parents had her in mind when they named me. It must mean our parents did love us also. So, Now she's crying about her parents. Basically, both of these women have been named after the goddesses of love, Claire and Teresa. Which, we will learn more about these goddesses as we read. Personally, I'm going to think more about it too, to be honest. What is the sort of narrative reasoning behind creating two goddesses of love? It's still something that I'm trying to reflect upon. Okay, so stop crying. Your parents' love will live on through your name. Now come on, Claire. Oh, it's the thief. The thief that had his arm cut off. I guess he's looking for revenge. Okay. So this was chapter 14. I have to say that this chapter surprised me again. Because, I had forgot that they had a topless little girl with basically her whole body was naked in a few of these pages. She was not wearing clothing. No, she was sitting by the fire with a nude body. Okay, that's straight child enthusiasm. Some people debate, they say, this is not really acceptable, but you see it, and I think many of us should talk about it. Basically, what you do in art, child enthusiastic pornographic content is not allowed, but if you draw it, oftentimes you can get away with drawing it. So, if you want to draw little girls, many artists, especially in Japan, you will get in no trouble by drawing little boys and little girls, minors, who are nude, no clothes, naked, and even pornographic content that features, minors. It is really popular in Japan, and, maybe it would have been one thing if they just showed us her back, and they covered her up sort of really fast, but no, whoever the artist was, he decided to show us basically everything. We're going to see plenty of nasty things in this manga. Those of you who've watched the anime and read the manga, you already know. So, this was interesting. I have to say that caught me off guard a bit. This whole thing with little Claire, But those of you who've seen it, you know it. You cannot deny it. Whether you like it or not, in terms of just this type of art. Whether you are an advocate or a proponent of, basically drawing minors without clothes and sort of, showing minors in that sort of sexual way, you have to admit that this is what this artist did. So some of you, and we who are manga readers and anime watchers, we have to ask these questions if we are being honest with ourselves. What is the nature of the medium and the sort of art and the sort of writing that we are reading and seeing with our own eyes? We really have to, I myself, that is why I like this series of basically doing commentary for manga and, not only reading it, but asking questions. Why is this here? Things like that. Why is this here? Why did they write this a certain way? Why are they showing us a certain thing? That to me is very important. Because a lot of times I think the cultural discussion that we have as manga readers, as anime watchers, East and West, is limited. We don't ask questions. We don't talk about, hey, I saw this. This is making me think about something in a certain way. And, we do not do it. We do not do it. A lot of us, what we see, even though it affects our minds, we do not take the time to really discuss it and say, hey, I wonder if the culture that is being promoted is this way, or, if they're promoting child enthusiasm or whatever else. So, I love doing this. I really do. Some people will be grateful for this type of commentary. Some people maybe will not be. But please, if you have anything that you want to comment on, please use the comment forum. Oh my goodness, those comment forums are so open, you would not believe. Oh my goodness, I have some of the most open comment forums on my YouTube channel you will ever find, because I know how to optimize those comment forums. So if you have anything to say, please do. Please do. Older watchers of this series, newer watchers of this series, I've been basically, doing this whole Claymore commentary thing for a pretty long time. So, I hope you enjoy it. I would just like to say, may you be blessed and farewell.